the guys. Cowboy Bebop. Right.
He said that like 2 minutes ago. I hear a yell.
I went out and I got him. I was like, Ronnie, you should come.
Pamela's like the best, right? I know when like somebody else is here. And
No, did you see the spot? Don't you like the cool stuff? But anyways, go ahead.
I'm planning on maybe.
Are you starting in 5 minutes?
Very, very, very high non-conventional.
hey everybody, just a quick note. I think we're gonna start in 5 minutes. Give everybody a chance to talk story, as we say in Hawaii. And, catch up and stuff like that. But yeah, it should be shortly. So I hope it just makes my voice sound. It's kind of really good.
Need more trouble.
Yeah, exactly. More. I need more trouble. I like having bass.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's like hard for me to have bass. You know, sometimes say hi to more people. Yeah, I'm gonna be here all night. All right, thank you. So give everybody a little bit more time. But I will take this moment to definitely pitch a big mahalo, which is thank you in Hawaiian, to the Martial Arts History Museum. These guys have been awesome. I love this place. Pamela actually, as a surprise, one of my birthdays, my birthday, she brought me here, and I had no idea that this place existed, and it's fantastic because so many luminary martial arts legends have supported this museum, and I've gotten to meet them at Dragon Fest, which is like every summer they have Dragon Fest over Pickwick Gardens the past 2 years, and it's just like, for me, it's like the closest I could go to like going to Star Wars land without having to pay Disney prices, so it's like fantastic. They have a lot of awesome merchandise here, a lot of books. Michael Masuda's fantastic. So yeah, please, if you can, support. And then if you want to come back to just check the place out, because you can see there's so many awesome exhibits and props and weapons and historic. And if any of you have any knowledge of the martial arts, you'll recognize some of those uniforms. And oh my God, that's Al DeCoscos' uniform is in here. The Ed Parker's, I think. No, Elvis's. In the front lobby when you came in, I think that's Elvis's gi, right? I think from yeah. Elvis was a black belt in American Kempo under Ed Parker. That's why if anybody ever saw Elvis in person, I didn't, but he'd do some of his karate movements. So very cool. I guess we're good. Pamela's sitting down, so I know. I'm gonna cut this off because I don't need to compete. I need to compete. I mean, am I going to compete with the video? Because I know myself.
When in doubt, press it.
When in doubt, SNJ. SNJ or Jeff
Just pull the plug.
We have video people here. We don't know.
Because that's going to be, hold on. I need reading glasses to read, but not to see. So it's like one of these things where I'm like, halftime. Great, awesome. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I mean, I pretty much know 99% of you and a couple people I just met today, which is fantastic. And thank you. I hope you enjoy the book. Keep in mind too, it's got a lot of action in it and stuff too, and things. But yeah, there's script reading in 2012. Good friend of ours, Wanjiro Njendu, who's a fantastic director, is right now she's busy touring her film Box, which I did voiceover work in. So she's like doing festivals left and right. Otherwise, she'd be here too. But yeah, it's amazing. I wrote this book just technically in 2018 as a book, but I actually wrote the story 21 years. No, not quite 21. Back in 1999, but it was like summer of '99. I was friends with a filmmaker, and he had cast me back in the days of Dramalog as an actor. You submit yourself via mail, and we had black and white headshots back in the day, and I had a horizontal kind. And he cast me in his film to do some little action scenes and stuff. And the film never really went anywhere, but we got to be friends. And I said, hey, maybe I could, because he liked me because I had a Jim Carrey thing about me back when I had hair, and I could do Jim Carrey. Alrighty then. See, now they're like, oh, you see, because now I can I look like Fire Marshal Bill Burns here.
That's it.
I won't scream to let me show you something because I don't want to blow you guys' ear out. But back in the day. So anyway, I'm like, hey, I should, because I do martial. He's like, oh, very cool, very cool. And he's like, well, I don't have another script, but could you write one? You know, do you have anything? And I said, no, I don't, but I could write something. He says, okay. So I'm like, oh, great. I gotta write a script now. Okay, cool. And I've written scripts before, but I'm like, oh, so I'm like, okay, martial art movie. I write down every, you know, you outline it on the legal pad, and I'm like, okay, what are the martial arts plots that have been done? So you got the tournament fight, right? Like Bloodsport. I just want to train with my shidoshi. To have an open mind. That's Van Damme. You know, remember that one? That was like 30-something years ago now. So it's like, okay, they've done Bloodsport. Van Damme did that one. Chuck Norris, cop. So can't do cops because Chuck's got the, you know, he's got that corner, Walker, Texas Ranger. But even then, back in the day, and ironically, next week they're gonna have here Keith Vitale Day, and Keith Vitale was in one of Chuck Norris's cop movies. So, point fighters, killing crime fighters. So, you know, crime fighting with points, point sparring. So that's cool. But yeah, so I'm like, that's been done. And I'm like, okay, well then there's also the Karate Kid. Best character arc, right? So if you're looking for a character arc, he doesn't know martial arts, and then he learns martial arts. So there's character growth there, and there's an arc. I'm like, great. Okay, but yeah, they did that already with, you know, Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio, and now they got it on YouTube. So it's been done. I said, okay, well, what if he learned it really quick, like The Matrix? So The Matrix came. Remember, The Matrix came out in 1999. I'm like, okay, well, what if I do it like that? But The Matrix has been done. So The Matrix, what The Matrix did was, in the real world, you can't do all this stuff. But in The Matrix, you can do everything. So I'm like, okay, what if, and this is 1999, remember, this was like during the Clinton administration. This is pre-9/11. This is like, and it was, what if you could actually take that programming in The Matrix and actually, like, literally program your brain and your muscles to do it, so that in the real world, you're the Superman. And that was my whole thought behind it. I'm like, okay, I'll flip-flop it a little bit. Of course, that's what they're doing now. If you read, like, the internet, they're already starting to do this kind of stuff. So now I'm like, it's not sci-fi anymore. It's kind of like science fact. It's kind of like, are you doing a political thing? I'm like, no. It's still a little bit of science fiction. Because if you think about it, it's like, we haven't mapped the brain out and stuff like that. So that was my idea, and that's how I came up with the whole notion. Over the past 20 years, I mean, the script, the movie script has gone, it's gotten really huge, and then it's kind of like scaled it back, and then I changed things here, changed things there, got to update a lot of the references because they didn't have smartphones when I first read it, now they do. And, you know, the characterizations and the characters, they all evolve. And as a writer, I don't know if any of you are writers, but you fall in love with your characters, and sometimes the main character that you want to play, you give them a back seat because you're like, I know how that goes. But you have so much fun writing these other characters. And if some of you have actually read the book, and you'll notice it's like, sounds like Bill had a lot of fun writing that guy or that gal or that character. And yeah, it's just fun to just hear them take over. And then you have to rein it all in. But at one point, it gets to the point where doing a feature film costs a lot of money, even if you're going to do it low budget. So, you know, Kickstarter comes out and you're like, okay, maybe do one of the Kickstarter things, or maybe I'm like, yeah, still got to be a lot of money because this is stunts, and you're a professional actor and you work with a lot of SAG actors, and you got to pay them. You got stunt coordinator ain't cheap, and safety is key. You know, that's the one thing, and that's the one thing that when I do the movie, it's got to be safe. It's got to be. I don't want anybody coming back saying they've hurt something. I don't want anybody pulling a muscle. I want them to go like, oh yeah, I can get back up and just whack, you know, keep kicking. So that just like, and at some point, a few years ago, they came out with this little movie called Ready Player One. And I found out Ready Player One, it sounds like Cyber Fighter. But it's like the guy Ernest Cline, he wrote it as a novel first. And then it occurred to me, hey, wait a minute. Well, if it worked for J.K. Rowling, although she didn't really write Harry Potter because I'm going to make movies out of it, but she just wrote this book. This story just came out of nowhere. Mine's been in my head the whole time. And I've always had it in screenplay format, which, if you know anything about screenwriting versus novel writing, screenwriting is minimalist. Less is more. Cut all of the adjectives are your enemy. Adverbs, oh, don't get me started on adverbs. They don't want adverbs. In fact, they don't want them in novels either, but, you know, adjectives, no flowery language. Alliteration, who needs alliteration? You just need, you see this, they say that, this happens, and then fight scenes, when I was like 18, writing my first scripts, I would write every fight scene. And I'm like, nope, that's what the stunt coordinator, fight choreographer's there for. Yeah, but I have it all in my head. You gotta let that go. So, anyway, yeah, welcome, come on in. So, I decided, why not write it as a book? And the freeing thing about when you take a script and write it as a book, you now give yourself free license to just type away and overwrite everything and get into everybody's head, and then you get the first draft and it's like 300 some pages on, like, you know, Microsoft Word, and I print it out double-sided because I don't like to kill trees, and then I give it to Pamela and say, Pamela, what do you think? And she reads it and she's like, oh, this is good. And she says, oh, this is too much. No. You don't need this. You don't need, really? Oh, okay. And because she's not really a martial artist herself, it's really good, because one of the greatest notes she gave me, and I've gotten a lot of really good feedback in this book, is I like how you say the name of the weapon or the martial art term, and then you explain what it is. Because she said, you need to put a footnote. I don't know what a katana is. I don't know what a ninjato is. What is a shuriken? I'm like, okay. So I would explain it. Because in your head, you're thinking, well, my audience knows that. But if you want to have a bigger audience, you kind of have to, like, bring everybody in. And it's kind of like what Bruce Lee did when he brought Chinese culture and martial arts culture to the West, because nobody, aside from those of us growing up in Hawaii who could get black belt theater, Shaw Brothers movies, a lot of people, like, when everyone discovered Jackie Chan in 1992, Rumble in the Bronx, Jackie Chan, wow, I'm like, I knew him from Young Master and Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, which you'll recognize some of the references in my animation. And if you've read the book, and you're familiar with that, you'll go, hey, that sounds a lot like Simon Yuen, who is, of course, Yuen Woo-ping, the guy who choreographed Matrix. His father was a Hong Kong movie star who always played the old master, who always had the bamboo rod and go, psh, 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 psh. He'd always torture Jackie Chan or whatever Alexander Fusheng or whoever was, like, going through that learning the martial arts character arc type of thing. So, anyway, that's like a little brief explanation of the genesis of the story. I love sci-fi. Star Wars was like the biggest influence, even before martial arts. Star Wars is what got me into filmmaking. When I went to see Star Wars, I was blown away, of course, like all those of us who got to see it on the big screen. We're of a certain age, you can remember seeing that first opening shot and going, and then I come home and then they have on TV the making of Star Wars, and I'm like, wait, what? Wait, people do this as a job? Because I come from a military family. That's a picture of my mom and dad. They're both military vets. My dad was like a full, lifer in the Navy. I figured everybody's dad wore a Navy uniform and had a ship. And I'm like, no, wait, this is like a job? I mean, I could do this? I'm like, ooh. So when I got my Star Wars toys, and Brian, my brother knows this, even though his older sister and other brothers know it more because he was born like after Empire, so they had to sit through. I get the toys, and I would act out the movie. It was like a puppet show. It was like a puppet show, kind of like with the action figures and the toys. And I would make them sit through it. And before I had the record that had like the soundtrack and the dialogue and all that, I would do it myself. And I'm like, oh my God, this is how you learn your craft. The hard way. Anyway, hey Robert, good to see you. So, Star Wars, of course, a big influence. And then, I must say this before I start reading the excerpt. So 6th grade camp comes around, and we have movie nights. And back in those days, they would get 16mm prints of Hollywood movies, and then they would screen them. And there's a bunch of 6th graders, so the first night we had The Spy Who Loved Me with Roger Moore as James Bond, uncut. So that was like, oh, okay.
What?
The second night, yeah, Pam, I didn't tell you this? Oh, yeah. The second night, they screened Enter the Dragon. And also uncut. So if you're familiar with the movie, like, you know, that night that Han gives them a gift, and Jim Kelly is like, I'll pick you and you, and then, yeah, I saw that at age 11. It was like eye-opening. Cool guy. But I saw Bruce Lee. Now I've heard of Bruce Lee. but I'd never seen it, certainly not on the big square screen, you know, because they didn't have like the widescreen version of it. They had a 60mm print. But just watching just his charisma, especially that opening, he was intimidating to the, you know, the kid like me, which is when he's got the students, oh, he's got a young guy, he's just slapping him on the head. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all of that heavenly glory. Understand? Never take your eyes off your opponent, even when you bow. And just like, I'm like, oh my God, he can hit people with his foot. I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. I'm like, this is awesome. So that's how I got introduced to Bruce Lee. And then Karate Kid comes out. My mom and dad, we didn't see it in the theater because we instead wanted to watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom because, you know, Indiana Jones fans. But we did rent it on VHS. The next day on Ford Island, in our mailbox, is a flyer saying, at the Ford Island gym, they're having karate lessons. And I'm like, Mom, can I take karate? And she's like, okay. I'm like, usually Mom would always be like, no, you can't do that. And then she actually shared something with me. She said, when we first moved on Ford Island, she said, they actually, there was a Taekwondo class that was going to start, and I signed you, Bobby, and two of my other brothers, Brian was too young, up for it, but nobody else wanted it, so they canceled it. I'm like, you mean I could have learned Taekwondo? So instead, Okinawan Kempo was my base style, and I've been doing that ever since 1985. So if you do the math, so long time. I've spent more of my life as a martial artist than not. So I don't know anything else. So martial arts is like everything to me, and that's what sparked the book, the story, and it was really inspiring this last Oscars when Parasite actually won. And at the time that they won, we watched the Oscars then, we hadn't seen the movie yet. But we were like, oh, this is cool. And I'd heard great things about it. I was busy with all this stuff. And when Bong Joon-ho comes up and he goes, the most personal is the most entertaining. And it really spoke to me because it was like, yeah, that's so true. And those of you who've read it, there's a lot of me that's in that character. There's a lot of me that's in that story. There's a lot of me, my experience, my feeling, my everything, my emotion that you will find in that story. And then when he said it was Martin Scorsese, he was like, oh my God, isn't it great? And I've heard of his movie. I mean, he's been a filmmaker in South Korea. South Korea, for those of you who don't know, has a really great film community. And they're more known for horror because they do it really well. And if you've seen Parasite, no spoilers, it's like, yeah, I can see why they do that really, really well. But fantastic. So that was very inspiring to me. Haole boy from from Rhode Island, Navy brat, Rhode Island originally, but grew up in Hawaii. So I always say I'm Pakamaina, because if you can talk like that, my original second language. Then my wife is like, what? I love to talk like that because she don't do it. Roger knows how to talk like that, but yeah, back in the day, yeah, Brian knows. Pigeon, bro. Yeah, there was a guy like, remember when we were growing up and there was like Ikaika Belding? He had a TV show. They had like this anti-smoking campaign for the kids anyway. Oh, great. I have to call everyone's attention to Christina Gray. She was my editor on this book. So
Good job.
that is the perfect timing to make an entrance, Christina, because then I could acknowledge it.
I planned it.
Yeah, you planned it perfectly well. No, she's fantastic. Even though Pamela was a big help, and then I self-edited. And here's the thing, those of you who are artists and stuff who think like, can you really get a gig off of Instagram? I shared something on Instagram, and then she said, oh, by the way, if you need a book editor, I'm like, wait, you're a professional book editor? Because I know her as a fantastic actress, and I think as a writer too and a producer, but I know we're all creative multi-hyphenates here anyway. So, but she did a fantastic job, caught a lot of stuff that I didn't do, and usually she works off of a Microsoft Word, but by that time I'd already put it up on Amazon. And so, here's the thing about Amazon, if you ever write a book, Amazon has a software called Kindle Create that lets you take your manuscript, upload it, and format it for Kindle. And they recently, while I was in the process with this, made it to where you can actually also do that with paperback. So I was able to do the paperback formatting and the Kindle formatting in one fell swoop, which is fantastic. And the only thing that I had to do outside of that was design the cover, which I did in Photoshop. But I've been working with Photoshop for like 20 years now, so I think I know a little bit about layers and this stuff like that. But yeah, Christine was a big help. And now I think I want to give you guys a little sample from the book. So anyway, for those of you who don't know the story, and those of you who do, I apologize for rehashing it, but I have to do this because I can't really see this.
That's cute.
So, Brian Baldwin's the main character. He's a klutz. He's a former video game designer who's been unemployed, underemployed mainly. He's been temping a lot. And as an actor, I can tell you that's what I used to make a lot of money. Pay my bills temping. And he gets a job at a defense contractor, like a Raytheon or a Grumman, Northrop, or one of those big ones. And he volunteers, he gets conned into volunteering for this brand new program that they're developing called Cyberfighter. And the programmer is actually a Brit, who I modeled after John Cleese, so you'll kind of hear that kind of voice as I do it. Because I love Monty Python. See, there's a lot of me in this book, Monty Python growing up, remember that, Brian? Mr. Kluge, who created this program and wants to sell it to the Pentagon as a way to indoctrinate and train troops. So the idea is, in 72 hours, you take a blank slate, put them under virtual reality, and it's kind of like a lucid dream, and in 72 hours, they're programmed with whatever skills you want, whether it's basket weaving, knitting, or commando skills. So for the beta test, they're not going to give Brian Baldwin like Green Beret, Navy SEAL type, I can, shoot you off, with my eyes closed. But they're going to instead program with 47 different styles of martial arts. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all this other stuff, which is great because John Crane, who some of you who are affiliated with the museum knows, I'm working with John. He's a fantastic actor and stand-up comic and fight choreographer. And you'll kind of notice I kind of model it after him. Hopefully he can show up too. He said he's going to try to make it here, but he's a very busy man. Him and his gal, they have a stunt company and they do a lot of work. He teaches stunts. He's fantastic. He wrote a book on stunt, the definitive book. It was so good, it's out of print. That's the problem when you go with the publisher. If they decide to put you out of print, but with Amazon, it'll never be out of print. But he's working on like a handbook, like for anybody who's like a DP, you have the ASC guide that you can stick in your back pocket. He's been working on trying to do that for this, which is fantastic. So, anyway, he's also in the movie. He plays Sifu, so which stands for Simulation, Integration, and Fighting Utility. So Sifu is an artificial intelligence avatar in the program. In the program, it's kind of like modeled after Simon Yuen and like the old master. Kind of do something before Sifu. Anybody who knows Kung Fu or speaks that crisis? I don't know. This sounds like it's fun because he thinks it's like a video game. So this, what they did in the moment before, like those of us who are actors know about the moment before. The moment before was, so Kluge, in his true wise-ass fashion, is like, okay, so before we do a makeover, you need a before picture. So we brought out a guy, actually the receptionist who's there, who's this fabulously, like, very snarky millennial who just beats the crap out of him because he's got taekwondo and ballet, kind of like Van Damme, and just beats him up, humiliating him. And so now Brian's just taking a shower and he's about ready to go in. Well, you'll see. Okay. The hot shower refreshed Brian. Wearing his office clothes, he exited the locker room to where Kate was waiting for him. Ready now? Brian nodded. He had washed his hair, or more specifically, the paint on his head had been cleaned off, revealing the serious lack of hair underneath the pathetic flap of comb-over trying to hide the skin. Kate eyeballed the wispy comb-over, struggling to stay atop Brian's scalp. "Follow me," she ordered, directing Brian out the gym and down a concrete hallway resembling a fallout shelter bunker rather than a corporate office. "We're just about ready to conduct the experiment." At the hallway's end, a pair of metal-plated sliding doors met them. A small pair of windows revealed a glimpse into the facility behind. It was a high-tech lab right out of a science fiction movie. An electronic plate with a video screen contained a computer graphic of the palm of a hand mounted by the doors. Kate pressed her delicate hand to the plate, the graphic identifying her via the palm print, and listed her name, Dr. Kate Wren, with the pop-up message, "Access granted." The two doors slid open, revealing the laboratory. Kate led Brian through the doorway and into the large room that awaited them. Kate led Brian into what appeared to be a large hangar-like structure, catwalks and scaffolding about 20 feet above them. Large banks of hanging fluorescent lights illuminated the interior.
The floor comprised a grid of metal plates with oblong banks of lights mounted within. These provided a dim fill to the ambient lighting, which was bright and a little harsh. Brian needed a moment to let his eyes adjust to it. Within this hangar, there was a row of control panels, each with its own plasma screen displaying idle at the moment. MSD screensavers keeping time while waiting for activation. Behind this row of terminals were two large video screens, one bigger than the other. Both had a static graphic of the MSDC logo as their desktop background. Kate gestured with a slow wave of her arm, presenting these sights to Brian. "Welcome to the farm." Brian again surveyed the facility laid out around him with a sense of wonder. E-I-E-I-O-M-G. With modern computers the size of your smartphone outperforming the ones NASA used to go to the moon, he could only guess at the processing speed of these monsters. Hearing Kate's introduction snapped Kluge out of his concentration. He rose from his crouched position and slid the VR headset up, revealing his eyes, which struggled to focus on Brian. "Ah, excellent! Welcome to Cyber Fighter, Mr. Baldwin," Kluge proclaimed with a chipper exuberance, reminiscent of a child on Christmas morning displaying their new toys. "This is pretty." Brian searched for the right word to describe the sci-fi-looking tableau laid out. "Cool!" he exclaimed, catching the same sense of excitement as his new employer. "Ah, brilliant!" came the Brit's response. "Glad to hear it meets with your approval, though with the contract you signed, you're committed either way." The older man chuckled, as if he just gave away the punchline of an inside joke that only he was privy to. He surveyed his younger subject from comb over to toe and scoffed. "Right, this will never do. Dr. Rand, let's get them spruced up and ready to commence." Kate stepped forward, brandishing electric hair clippers. She switched them on and moved them closer to Brian's head. "Whoa, what are you doing with those?" he protested, startled by her bold maneuver. "We need a clean connection for the VR helmet interface," Kate replied with an eager smirk. Kluge nodded. "Yes, Dr. Rand, do get rid of that unruly mess," he tisk-tisked. "I don't know about this." Brian's sense of dread created a lump in his stomach. But Kate attempted to reassure him. "Trust me, it's a better look." She buzzed the long strands of his comb over to drop away. "No more hiding your true self." And so that's just a little sample. I wrote before the experiment. So now, let me check and make sure what we're doing on time. Hace tiempo. Un momento. Oh, okay, great, perfect timing. Okay, so that's a little sample. Now, this is so funny. It's like, yeah, I'm excited about the book, and I'm so glad that you're all here to support me and everything like that. But what I'm really excited to show is going back to talking about the movie. So, one way to make a feature film is make a short film first. Right? Less days on the schedule, so instead of like a 37-day and 8 fight sequences, you can shoot it down in 4 days and, three fight sequences, 2 major fight sequences. So I asked John Crane, I said, "Can you?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay. Okay. I heard you." Yeah, he's not here today. "Wait, you just say 4. Like, "Yeah, that's what I did when I broke it down." So anyway, I'm going to bring this up. This is a sample. Well, first off, yeah, thank you, Pam.
Okay.
I didn't forget. It's good. Pam's like a great producer, too. She's fantastic. Now I need these to actually see the buttons. When in doubt,
Right hit a guy with glasses.
Yeah. So yeah, the DVD menu will pop up. So yeah, a lot of you probably have seen the book trailer that I put up on YouTube. Yeah, no, I gotta adjust the volume. Oh, what's really cool is this music that you hear is part of. Okay, so he's not. Here's what. Part of the music here, Andrew Pedersen, who, going back to my very first. It's just gonna keep looping. My very first film that I did, I was in 16. Law of the Ninja. Brian, my youngest brother, that was his introducing Brian Hill as Stevie Salters, the ninja. It was Law of the Ninja. He did the score. And back in the day, we do it via snail mail, and then my master was on cassette. So But now, yeah, I mean, he's a professional. He actually took my soundtrack and got into UCLA. So I wasn't able to pay him, but at least I was able to pay that forward. But anyway, that's some of it. And with the book trailer, you're gonna hear the actual theme to Cyber Fighter in the book trailer. He composed it. And he would tell you, he's like, well, I'm gonna orchestrate it better when we finally, get to that, but that's why I need to raise money so that I can actually make the movie and do it right. So, anyway, so the first, hi Wanjiro, we're just talking about you. This is Wanjiro, amazing director. She actually hosted the very first script reading of Cyber Fighter back when it was just a screenplay, not a book. So, perfect timing. Here we go. This is, all right, yeah, okay. The book trailer. Make sure everybody can see that. That's gonna be redone too. And of course, it tells you exactly where you can get the book on Amazon. Right there. And paperback. I mean, Kindle's great, but I mean, yeah, it's something about. All right, so my theme music, but there's something about like actually having a book in paperback feels more real. I think because those are digital stuff's easy, but digital stuff's very convenient too. Okay, so as you can see, some of that animation was rendered in Dad's studio. It took me a long time to render it. And you can see the horse dance, a little bit of Simon Ewan, a little bit of Snake and Eagle Shadow with the bulls in it. But this is what I'm extremely proud about so far, because this is actually half of the movie's done. And you're going to see some of the end, not all of it, because there's some funny stuff that I'm saving. Because otherwise, if I show you, it's like, why do I need to see the movie? I saw the best part. So, this is, okay, so what's really cool about this, I've done 90% of the sound design. So the only thing that I can't take credit for is the music is temp music. So apologies to John Williams, to Kingsman, the Secret Service. And the training montage music is fantastic. I can't even remember his name, but there's this composing software called Cinematic Strings, and he had that as a demo, and I'm like, this is beautiful. You'll see what I'm talking about. And it hits all of the emotional beats that I want. So without further ado, you're going to see a little bit of the live action, kind of what I read about. You're going to see the transition into the world. So it's kind of like my version of Wizard of Oz, Dorothy going or down the rabbit hole, if you're more into like Alice in Wonderland. All right, here we go. That's our new splash for 4 Scorpio Films. Andrew Pedersen actually composed this little piece of music here too, so I gotta give him props for that. That's actually our backyard.
With our match.
Yeah. Beautiful sunset I caught.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
So this is not full.
is this? I'm CG.
More stats. You need to strengthen your foundation.
What the? Who the hell are you?
Welcome, I'm CFIT, Simulation Integration and Fighting Utility. I'll be back in 3 days. Don't drop the balls.
Wait, 3 days?
Virtual days. Compressed time. You'll see.
I'm feeling the burn right there, so. Otherwise it'd be a long screen.
What a great Harvest Moon Festival.
Hello? A little help here? I can't move.
Of course you can. Watch.
God damn it! That's not fair.
You dropped the balls.
This is a colossal waste of time. I'm not learning anything.
So, you want to learn Kung Fu, eh?
How the hell did we get here?
This'll be our dojo for the next 30 virtual years.
30 years?
You forget, we live in compressed time.
You know, I'm afraid of heights.
All the more reason to pay attention. You only have about 60 hours left in the outside world to learn all this.
Cat challenge.
So that's the So those stunt guys were the easiest to work with. They always hit their mark. That's motion capture. So there's actually this website called Mixamo, and you can download the motion captures. The tricky part is to get them to sync up the reaction with, come on up. There we go. It went back in. Oh, you know why? Because it's, there we go. It's trying to come out. It's on a loop. There we go. Okay. But, yeah, so that, it takes longer to render. So people said, like, why don't you just make the whole thing animated? I'm like, yeah, and burn up my laptop. That'll fry it. But, yeah, so I was very excited about that. You'll see a lot of the references, the Simon Ewan, the horse dance, Snake and Eagle Shadow. A few, like, what was the other thing that, oh, the sound design. A lot of, I built, layered all that stuff. You know, CG compositing, all this stuff, all done on one laptop. So we really live in an amazing age now. When I was a kid, when I was your age, William, I wanted to do that, but I would have had to, at best, get a Super 8 camera and spend, oh God, hundreds of dollars in Kodak developing, and then, wait, this doesn't have sound? And then VHS, and then that was a square, and it looked like junk when you copied it 3 times to master it. But now it's like, it's on the computer, now people are doing it on their phones and everything like that. So anyway, yeah, it's amazing. And I'm just really excited because I'm living the dream. Is living the dream is like just being connected this way with martial arts, and to just tell stories. I think that's what a lot of us who are in the film business, definitely, or the writing business or whatever business we are, the creative arts businesses, we're storytellers. And Harrison Ford said it best. It's we're associate storytellers, and that's kind of like what we do. And hope those of you that have gotten my book already and have read it liked it. And oh, another thing that's about Amazon is, if you can, and it depends, if any of you are Amazon Prime customers or spend a lot of money on Amazon, you will be able to leave a review. If not, Amazon is like, sorry, but you need to spend at least $50 in the past year in Amazon products in order to leave it. Really? I guess that's because a lot of like third-rate authors were like getting their friends to give them glowing 5-star reviews, and then the people would buy the book and go like, this looks like somebody's first draft. What the heck? Oh my God. So yeah. So as a consequence, we all get punished. So, but anyway, if you can, I appreciate it. I'm also on Goodreads too. So if you're like Goodreads, you can leave a review there too, an honest review too. I mean, if you have problems like I didn't like this, I know, definitely tell me, because the thing too is like customers like that, because if it's all like, oh my God, it's amazing, they say, yeah, right, okay, sure. That's what they said about the new Star Wars movie that came out, which I liked it, but I think they overhype things, you know. So honest reviews are great. What are we doing on time right now? Oh, thank you, Pamela. Oh, good. Yeah. So we just we're ending the first hour. So yeah, I'm happy to take Q&A. No spoilers though. Although maybe we could talk in code depending on what it is. But I don't want to spoil anything because this is actually the first of a trilogy. So unlike George Lucas, I've actually got it mapped out where it's going, instead of like, you're his father, your brother and sister, which didn't make sense. Erwin Kershner's probably like, I wish you would have told me that, George, before I had him kiss her, but you know. It sounded more like Jim Henson than Erwin. He's got the same kind of Jim Henson, but I can't do it. Yeah, I can do Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can do that voice, but I can't do everybody. Pamela shaking her head said, Bill, stop. So, it's time for the people to ask questions. So yeah, any Q&A about anything that you saw here, or maybe the process of Amazon or whatever, yeah. Yes.
Without spoiling it, what's going to happen next with Brian in the next episode?
Okay, let's see what that's going. There will be more adventures. No, there's going to be more action. How many people here have actually read the book? If you show of hands. Okay, I know Pamela has. I know Brian has. Okay, it's not too many people. Well, what I can do, there's going to be a lot more action. Some of you, like, I know Leslie and Wanji, remember when and Gregor too, and Natalie, you guys were there at the original script reading. And I think one of the notes I gotten, but not in so many words, but this is what I distilled it to, was, Bill, you put 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. And the actual saying doesn't use the word potatoes, it uses a substitute, which you figure that out, but I try to keep this like Disney-esque rated. But yeah, and I had to slash and burn a lot of it, which I think I'm going to bring some of that into the sequel. So there's a lot more action. The plot is going to get very thick. Brian thinks he knows who he is. At the beginning of this, he's lost. He doesn't know what he is. After this, he thinks he knows where he's going. He has absolutely no idea, because I know how this is all going to end, and it's like... I'm fascinated with a lot of science. I'm fascinated with a lot of what deals with consciousness, what deals with what is reality. You know, metaphysics stuff, how does it relate to science and stuff, without getting religious or anything like that, but there's a lot of, like, religion tries to connect with this thing. What are we, really? And that's ultimately what he's going to face in the final chapter. But you got to build up to it so that it's like, it doesn't look like, wait a minute, they just pulled that. How can they? The Death Star survived? Oh, no, don't be started. But you know what I'm saying. So anyway, that's that. Any more? Yes, Leslie.
Do we have to wait till the third book before he marries Kate?
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
in the original draft, he always hooked up with Kate, and then the reason why I pulled that back for good reason. I'm like, you know, first off, and especially in this day and age, which is fantastic, they are writing much more strong, they call them strong female characters, and I think it's just like, they're actually writing female characters more human, more with, you know, their own arc, instead of like, you're the arm candy for the real hero. I'm the two-fisted hero, and you're my arm candy. And it was kind of like, when I first started writing it, that's pretty, you know, late 90s, that's kind of like how movies were. You have the love interest, and you have the main hero, and you're going to be the hero, and she's going to be your love interest. And it's like, I looked at him like, oh no, she needs to be more like Princess Leia, because Princess Leia wasn't the love interest. I mean, that was like complicated. I really love what they did with her in Empire, and then in Jedi, I was kind of like, well, just have him kiss and all that stuff. But so whether or not Pamela, of course, ended up with me, but does Kate? Maybe. I'm not sure. I have a lot of really great ideas of what I might want to do with Kate, but it depends on how it works itself out. But that's a good point.
You want women to buy the book too.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Good point.
Yes.
Do how many women do the women want her to marry Brian?
You can have a strong
Oh, of
female
course.
lead who gets married to a man as well.
Oh no, I totally get that.
Or not.
Or not.
Or not.
Or not.
Marriage does not validate who she is just because she got to marry the guy.
Absolutely.
Great example.
Oh, there's so many.
Game of
There-
Thrones too.
And I worked on Game of Thrones for 10 years. That was my day job. So yes, absolutely.
There are many.
There are many. I'm the Star Wars nerd, so I immediately go to Leia. But yeah, no, you maybe. I don't know. See, the thing is, it's like when you're writing, you never know where it's
I
going.
thought you knew where it was going to go.
I know where I'm going, but Kate, I got to make something.
The
Yeah.
fourth book could be the amazing baby.
Or it could be the
See, the funny thing is, I already know where the story's going, and so many of this stuff, I'm like going, can I do that? I'm like, I don't know. Can I even tell you if I can do that or not? I don't know, that's very interesting. I love the feedback. Anybody else? Yes, Tahana.
So I've been hearing about this project for years, and I've heard bits and pieces of the
Yeah.
story about this, and now I've got a more complete picture of how this is coming to be or has come to be. I'm just wondering, it's been, you said, almost 21 years. Why? Why are you still inspired by this? What makes you keep going with this? To maybe the exclusion? I don't know how many other scripts you have, how many plates you have spinning with that, but why?
That's a great question. Why indeed? I think with this particular, it's just so branded to me. And if you took the first draft, which it's never going to see the light of day, because I look at it like, oh no. That was a throwaway. It was more like a vehicle, like this is going to be my acting vehicle. But then it became this story, and it's just, and then it's got, the more I live with it, the more it's like, any of you, because I know you do writing stuff like too, there might be like, you might have something that's just a part of you. It just feels like it's a part of you, and that you just can't let it go. And if you can never make the movie, at least I know it's on print. So somebody will do it, or I could do a graphic novel. I mean, to me, it's like, this is like my franchise. I'm like going, yeah, because you can. I mean, Amazon makes it easy to do your. I self-published that. I didn't hire anybody to do. I did the cover. I did You know, all those. Thank you, bootleg Photoshop. Of course, it's Photoshop 7, so it's not like, hey, It's like nobody uses Photoshop 7, and I do, because it still does everything I want. Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm just curious,
Yeah.
did you do print on demand or did you do a different avenue? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, if you do it directly through Amazon Kindle, it is print on demand. There are a lot of services out there that'll say like publish with BookBaby or this or that, and it's like, wait, it's going to cost me $2,000. It's like they're just doing the work that you can do yourself. And Michael Matsuda, who runs this, he's a self-publisher, and he has actually a great DVD on how I went to a seminar at Dragon Fest last year because it was like the stars were aligned. I'm like, oh my God, I'm publishing a book, and he's doing a seminar about how to publish a book. Let me pick his brain. It was so funny because I was like listening to him. He was like going, Amazon's. I'm like, oh good. He basically confirmed what I had already learned. But I had the good fortune of like trying to publish my book now and not 5 years before, where it was like confusing. But now, just do it through Amazon. It's so much easier. Yeah, Adam.
You shared some of your inspirations for the martial arts side of the book and the film. Who were some of your storyteller influences and how you are sharing Cyberfighter or plan to take it?
Oh, fantastic question. Yeah. Definitely George Lucas. George Lucas is the reason why I do what I do, the way I do it. Totally inspired by what he did in storytelling. There's a lot of critique about the prequels and and his weaknesses are his weaknesses, but ultimately his world building, his just to create this mythos that now Disney's spent $4 billion to acquire, and now they're developing a brand new book series with going back 1,000 years of the Jedi before. So it's like,
Wow, I was going to figure out how they were going to continue to make money. But that all came from one guy's brain. So I'm like, not saying that this is going to be that, because I doubt it, but you never know. I know for me, I'm like, so some of my friends here are from this film collective called We Make Movies, and basically it's a bunch of filmmakers, actors, writers, creative professionals that gather together once every Wednesday night to have a lot of great snacks from Trader Joe's. We used to have wine too, but we can't do that anymore because now they have a bar. I miss that, but that's the Irishman in me. But one of the sayings that we have is make the movie you want to see. Because ultimately, if you don't really care, if you don't really want to see it, it's kind of, It was like when I worked on Game of Thrones. I mean, I was just doing payroll, but at least it was a show I liked. Because I'd done a lot of stuff for HBO. Who cares about, oh, come on. I didn't care, but when you care about it, when it's something that really is like, oh, this is exciting, then yeah, that's fantastic. You had a question, William.
Is there going to be a second movie?
Yeah, I hope there's going to be a first movie first. But yes, there will be. There's going to be at least 3, but then again, like I said, if Disney goes, we kind of like this, let's have 10. I'm like, okay. I mean, if I can still, if I can still move, sure. Yes, sir.
Looks awful lot like John Crane. Was that a coincidence?
That was not a coincidence. That is John's character.
Yeah.
With my voice, because John's a professional. I can't go, hey, John, come on over and do some voiceover work for free. And he's like, no, I'll just do it what they call a scratch track. So it's a temp track. You notice it didn't sync up exactly, but that's okay, because neither did Kung Fu movies. So, and you notice he's got himself like, he's got a Kiwi accent. Right,
Yeah.
right, you're Kung Fu, you're student of the Kung Fu. And they always talk like that. It's like they would hire a lot, because Australia, those of you who don't know, is very close to China. In fact, Chinese love vacationing in Australia. Australia's very supportive, because during World War II, when Japan occupied, they took care of them. The Australian was the only, between the United States and Australia, was fighting the Japanese on that side of the world. So there's the closeness between them. And that's why a lot of Kiwis were hired as voiceover artists, and they would just, in Mandarin, it's different. It's not going to sync up, so you kind of have to add a lot of because it's very quick. I don't speak Mandarin, but I can fake Mandarin because I watch it. See, Jackie Chan would watch American movies and he could learn English. I can't do the reverse because it's like a and then you got Cantonese. Just always sounds like they're fighting.
which is the original like Hong Kong dialect, which is Cantonese. Oh, thank you.
Then you want to know what you're saying.
Get it
You're like,
down.
"Uh-oh, what did I
Well, it's
say?"
funny, like a lot of like when I've worked on movies and like the one director, he's of Chinese heritage, and then I did that for him. He says, "Oh my God, you sound like my grandmother." So I'm like, "Are you saying that I've got a feminine voice, or is it?" What's that? Oh, hold on. I gotta give some love to one Jiro out
Sorry
here.
guys, I have a baby shower. It's one of my closest friends, but I had to come and do this.
Thank you. Oh yeah, yeah.
Good to see you.
First, I just want to say, let's just start, but I'm improvising. I am so proud of my husband, Bill. We are so happy to have here. I'm so grateful that my sister Debbie flew in from Chicago for this. We have, yay, Bill's brother Brian, all our friends and family, friends from all over. We make movies and Wicked Lit, and people we've worked with forever. And it just means so much to us. And I am literally like in tears inside. It's just so loving and kind of close friend Sanjay. Just everyone's here. Adam and Jen, his nephew and his wife, and on baby on the way. I'm so grateful. We're going to feed you soon.
Yes.
And Bill has books as well. And I'm sorry, I just had to.
Thank you. Yes, we brought. And a shout out with the lunch. We got sandwiches from Submarine King. If any of you have had them, Sun Park is like fantastic. We actually had. We got turkey, we got tuna, we got veggie. For those of you who don't like meat, but it's very very awesome. So we got food for y'all. So any more questions? Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
But first of all, I've heard about Cyber Fighter for a long time.
Yes.
Been tracking it and everything, so congratulations.
Thank you.
On the book, and you've done a lot of work on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
On the film.
My laptop too.
So you were talking about writing, and I know how when you write, characters do start talking and speaking, kind of taking over. Was there any time during the writing of it where the writer took over something and did something completely different that turned the story in a different direction, or really put a twist on things that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, Jeff. A few times, and some of those have actually pivoted back to where, because then you get to there's this book, especially with screenwriting, called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, and he has a really good, I would say don't use it as a Bible, like this is, I gotta do it like this, but it's a good guidepost, because then if you look at, my story's not tracking, it's kind of like and when I had the first reading, I remember you were there too, it was, the people were a little lost, so I kind of had to go, okay, I need to split it. But yeah, it's just amazing. It's like a couple of my plot twists in the book kind of came out through one of these. Back when I was temping at a defense contractor, I would take breaks and I'd walk around the campus and I'd come back with an idea. And while they were all in staff meetings, I'd be like, yeah, what are you going to do? So anyway, any other questions? Yes, Brian.
So I read the first draft
Yeah.
years ago.
Leak it.
Do you remember it?
I don't know where it's at, but
Yeah.
do you remember roughly how many drafts it's taken to get to this point?
Oh, that is a very, I think 14? 14, 15, because this book was actually taken off of the 2014 script, and that's the last time I wrote the script. And I have a friend at DreamWorks, and they had a film group over there, and we were going to do it over DreamWorks for free. And then Comcast bought them up and said, sorry, we got to cut. I'm like, no! And then we made movies, and I'm like, yay! And then they're like, oh, no, hopefully so. So, yeah.
That 14, was that only the film script, or is that
Yeah.
including the...
Well, the film script, the book is actually basically almost, not verbatim, but it's like the actual, that's what happens. And I added stuff in the book that I'm then going to go back and put to the film script.
How many drafts of the book did you do?
Oh, the book is probably about 5. 5 drafts before I handed it to Christine. Because she gave me a very, very generous rate because we're We Make Movies friends, and I certainly wanted to be fair to her and just get as much of the grammatical crap out of the way before I said, hey, can you... all the spelling and grammar errors and commas, and so I wanted to make her job easier. But yeah, about 5. Yes, sir.
Yeah. In terms of the where you're at in terms of, do you have a top sheet? How far along in the process do you have and funding and etc. for the feature, and where you want to shoot it, and do you have have you gotten to that level yet, or where?
Yeah, the feature. What my plan is I do the short film. And then I use take that to Amazon, Netflix, and go, hey, this is what I do. Because the thing is, I can talk about it, but when I show it to you, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what you're talking about.
Speaking of, there's John Crane. We saw your avatar in the animation, so everyone seems to know you. But
Sorry I was late. There was had some emergencies.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but hopefully everything's okay. But yeah, John's amazing. And John, he wrote the book on fight choreography. John's like, I was so impressed. And Wanjiru, who just left, see, we're all connected. She actually formally introduced us via email because nobody's going to be creepy. Hey, yeah, because you get a lot of those kind of people. But when there's some professionalism behind it, because you have somebody that's a mutual friend, it feels better. But I'm so happy we're going to be working together. But to answer the question, the short film, I don't have any funding yet. It's going to be my intention to run a crowdfunding campaign. What I'm doing, because it's Cyber Fighter, instead of giving away T-shirts and which costs money, I've done a lot of, I call them cyber rewards. They're all digital. I've got digital books. Like one of the things I always love about Star Wars is like the art of Star Wars, and I've got 20 years worth of production art that I've compiled into like a book. I'm gonna have a narrative of the making of. I'm gonna have a big thick book of the whole process, and the book is being written as we're speaking right now. This is gonna be part of the whole book. It's like making a book and then making the film and everything like that. But yes, anybody else? And, oh my God, more Wicked Lit folk. Is that it? No question. I answered everybody's questions. I'm so happy because, yeah. Okay, so I got some books, some hard copies here, in case you want to buy them. They're $10 cash. I don't have credit card capability because I'm not a real merchant. But and yeah, the bookmarks are free bonus for everyone. So if you don't want to buy a book, feel free to take a bookmark because at some point you might think twice and stuff like that. But I have books here. I'm more than happy to sign. I'm a lefty, so my handwriting's not the best. But yeah. And then there's lunch. So I think Pamela will be unveiling that. It's unveiled. The lunch is ready. So feel free to, if you go down the hallway, hang a left, go into the place where there's Hawaii, because we did that on purpose. But yeah, there's Submarine King, chips, stuff. We got bottled water too. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. I'll set this up and pull that forward and see this.
Water bottles are here. The only thing the owner asks, if you're going to tap the water bottle and tap it here in case it drips, because then you in the museum, but that needs don't spill over there.
Yeah, Michael just would like everybody to just crack it open here, and that way they're not carbonated, but sometimes it's.
So grab a water, grab a book, and grab some.